I am Tracey Wallace. I am the head of content over at Klaviyo right now, but y'all, I've been in the e-commerce industry far too long. I recognize people here. That's how long. Prior to this, was over at BigCommerce for about 5 years, running their content operations. I've also started my own D2C businesses. It was a pillow business. It was a bad idea. Pillows are like the worst thing that you could possibly ship. There's no margins possibly available. Y'all know how that is. Okay. Today, though, I know I am the one speaker standing in the way of drinks and a happy hour, so thank y'all so much for being here with me. I am going to talk through some consumer survey data that Klaviyo ran a couple months ago. And that we have not launched yet. It's actually launching on the 14th, so y'all are getting it a little bit early. You'll see it in Ad Week 2 when it comes out. We did survey about 2,000 consumers. Here's what we'll go through here. I think this is only a 30-minute chat, so we'll run through a lot of this quickly. We'll leave some time at the end for questions, of course. Cool, so we did survey about 2,000. This is US consumers only, mostly wanting to find out, like, do you buy stuff over SMS? Like, what kind of messages do you prefer? Do you prefer SMS over email? All the things. Y'all will see it. We'll get in. Cool. A couple of the top findings that we found here is that, I want to find the most interesting ones. This one here, 83% of consumers say that receiving a text from a brand more than once a week is totally fine. I'm not one of those consumers, but I love that a lot of people are fine with that. In fact, 96% of consumers, and we'll look at this slide in a second in more detail, are totally fine receiving at least one, up to like 4 to 5 messages from a single brand in a week. And then folks are subscribing to about 2 to 3 brands in general, up to about 7. So they are being a little bit more specific than they might over email, as you may imagine, but they are subscribing to them. And then 73% of folks have made an SMS purchase in the last year. 55% of that 73% have done so more than once. So we have a lot of folks who are purchasing on that channel. But let's look a little bit here at just what we pulled and how we pulled. I am a former journalist prior to joining the tech industry, worked over at Mashable, back in Mashable's heyday, and a variety of other places. So understanding where data comes from is really important to me. So we surveyed 1,975 US consumers. I told y'all it was really close to 2,000. Why we didn't get to 2,000, I don't know. I guess it was US and Canada. Cool. Okay, awesome. We'll look at these numbers here in a bit more detail as well, but did want to call out, folks by and large say that they still prefer email as their main channel of communication. So 56% of people say that that is where they prefer to talk to brands most often, to hear from brands most often. 1 in 3, though, say that SMS is where they want to receive those channels, so about those messages. So about 30% of folks prefer SMS over email and over social media apps. That was the other one that ended up coming out in the survey. We'll look at all 3 of these channels throughout this entire deck at what kind of messages folks like to receive folks like to receive and which ones. Overall, and you will find this to be true in all of the data that we walk through, it's pretty omni-channel message. Like, folks seem to be pretty down with whether it's email, whether it's SMS, whether it's social media. They are looking for the information. In other words, all of those channels are important. Of course, exactly what you send in each one of those channels will differ in importance as what you send in each of those channels will differ from the other because they are different mediums. Cool. Oh, I guess I could use this. I'm sorry, y'all set this up for me and I'm not even using it. Cool. Great. So what kind of messages do folks prefer to receive with SMS? Transactional messages are the main messages folks like. I personally am a huge fan of them as well. That's not the only thing folks like receiving there, but by and large, transactional information in terms of when my order is shipping, when it's arriving, when it has been delivered, all of that is very much appreciated over text message. Email seems to be preferred for loyalty programs, upcoming promotions, all of that jazz. Again, these numbers aren't all that different from one another across email and SMS. We will have more analysis coming out on that on the 14th for everybody. This really is just more of a preview of the data itself. Cool. So message types and how often consumers want to receive them. So as I mentioned, 96% of consumers are totally fine receiving at least one text message or SMS message, so a branded text message per week. 13% of people totally down to receive them once a day. Only 4% say never. So that's pretty cool. Boomers are an interesting set here. You see we've called them out here at the bottom. They are the most likely to think it's acceptable for folks to text them multiple times a week, but also the most likely to say that it's never acceptable. Great. Cool. So these are the SMS messages that consumers want to see more often and the ones that they want to receive less often. So again, delivery confirmations, shipping confirmations, order confirmations. Coupons and promotional codes work well there too, as do birthday deals. Over on the side that folks want to see less often, so interesting or helpful articles, items and cart reminders, so that's probably your abandoned cart, event announcements, all of that jazz. Do keep in mind when you look at this data that the flip side of this data, so like this is showing you the ones that people most want to not receive, but the flip side of this data is that those folks said that it was totally fine to receive those things. And we'll talk a little bit about testing here in a bit, because while consumer data like this can be really helpful for building out your strategy, maybe convincing others at your company to test a new channel out or a new way of communicating, you do ultimately want to test and figure out what works for your specific consumer set rather than what works for a large survey that maybe Klaviyo put out. Awesome. Let's look at purchase intent. Cool. 73% of folks have made a purchase over SMS in the last year. 55% of those folks have done so 2 to 3 times. 27% have not. Again, keep in mind that SMS is still a growing channel. As you all know, folks are still getting more and more used to it. Brands are still adopting it. So really trying to understand here, how are those consumer habits changing over time? Klaviyo ran a similar survey to this back in 2021, and I think it was only 30% of folks around that had made a purchase, so this is a pretty big jump in about a year's time. Cool. This is what I was talking about a second ago. 50% of people are more likely to subscribe after they've made a purchase from the brand. 27% do it before they make the purchase if there is a discount offered. And then 23% are subscribing before they make a purchase, no matter what. Cool. Now, a key question here. Were all these people planning to buy already? Like, was something else in another channel already encouraging them to go to your site and somehow they've ended up on your SMS list? There's a variety of different ways that all of this can happen. So we do have some data on this here, which is 46% of people were already planning on purchasing either this item or a similar item in the near future and ended up buying it through SMS. And then 24% weren't thinking about purchasing at all, but the messaging encouraged them to purchase. So we do see some of those, what were they called a second ago? Like immediate buyers? That's not the right word. You know. Impulse, thank you. The impulse buyers. I know there's some of y'all out there. I'm kind of an impulse buyer, unfortunately. Okay, cool. So what now? What does all of this mean? We have some general recommendations here, which is, of course, use email for non-urgent communications, but keep SMS top of mind messages, so for things that are more urgent. My one caveat here is that, like, while the data, is telling us this, it's only telling us this marginally. The differences in how folks want to receive email or SMS really aren't that different from one another. Again, we ran this survey in 2021, and it was vastly different from one another, and this year it's pretty much the same. So my best recommendation as somebody who's run brands before and worked at D2C brands is you want to test it all to figure it out for yourself. And then, before we get to the question portion, I do have one little announcement for y'all, and it's just because I'm up here for Klaviyo, so hopefully it will be fine. We are launching our SMS AI assistant on Monday. Goal here is to help folks ultimately scale their SMS services. Will be available for all free and paid plans. shows you how much each one of those text messages will cost. Compliance is built in, and this is AI that is trained specifically for SMS messages based on the SMS campaigns that have performed and converted the best on Klaviyo over the last, I think, year and a half they ran it. Amazing. That is it, you guys. That is all that I have. A bunch of data to hopefully encourage you to think SMS is really cool and that you should use it or use it more and better. I am Tracey Wallace. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, is this thing on? I was curious if you have any recommendations on kind of the right balance between email and SMS sends. And we use Klaviyo for both, so
Awesome.
be as specific as you'd like.
Be as specific as I would like. Recommendations on volume of sends. I mean, again, I think a lot of it goes back to testing. For the most part right now, most of our customers are still sending more emails than they are SMS, and typically sending SMS to a more select group of folks. So whether that's those VIP folks, transactional SMS messages, of course, are going out based on how folks are purchasing. That, and then SMS, at least on our platform, is being used a lot for two-way communication. So for those support messages, TapCart was up here talking about, or CardHook was up here talking about that a second ago in terms of customer service. So we see a lot of that. And then promotional messages, especially around the holidays. A lot of folks are activating that for Black Friday, Cyber Monday in particular, and increasing volume there. One quick note is that SMS messages typically take, not SMS, MMS messages, so the ones with images, typically take a little bit longer to send and are more expensive. So if you want your SMS messages to get to people quicker and at a lower cost, we don't see any big differentiation in terms of conversion for MMS or SMS. So folks, at least for us, are opting for SMS over MMS to save a little bit there. That wasn't super specific. That was okay. Okay, great. Any other questions? Concerns, excitements, joys for the day? Yes.
Got another one?
Well, there's one here first, and then we'll go over there. Thanks.
I was just curious about two-way communication, especially
Yeah.
after Cart Loop. Just curious if you guys are coming out with that or kind of where that is.
Yeah, so Klaviyo enables two-way communication through a partnership with Zendesk. So you can connect that platform, and then your support team can, within the Zendesk either app or, that's fine, within the Zendesk app or the desktop version, manage all of the SMS communication there so that they don't have to be on their phones and stuff. So that's the way we solve for it. Does that help? Yeah. Cool.
How many texts is too many texts over Turkey 5?
I don't know. I don't have a specific answer for that. I really don't.
Is there a certain threshold that you've seen where unsubscribe rates kind of go off the top during that period?
Nothing that I can think off the top of my head. I will say we do recommend folks on email and SMS to turn off things like browse abandonment notifications and to even pause some of your flows, because as you're sending out campaigns and campaign volume for Black Friday, Cyber Monday really increases, you want to make sure that you aren't overwhelming folks with emails or SMS messages, especially ones that you aren't necessarily aware are going out, right? So your flows or the automations that you've set up in the past, probably keep maybe some of your abandoned cart on and a welcome one that's maybe more customized for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or you might push welcome to even go out after Black Friday, Cyber Monday for all of the new customers, but you're really focused during that time period at conversion ultimately. So I don't know the exact SMS number in terms of what might be too many. But folks in general are increasing their sends on the platform about 10-20x over that time period in comparison to other months.
I would really like your slides.
Sure.
I can have them.
Well, they will be available on 11/14.
11/14.
Yes, they will. I will send them to you.
Okay, great.
Yes. Everyone here can get them then.
One of the messages they were open to receiving was birthday messages.
Yes.
Do you have a suggestion on the best time to receive that information? Would it be at first touch when they subscribe or at checkout?
Yeah, a lot of folks are collecting it at a lot of different points, so you might need to A/B test it. One, we're seeing a lot of folks use like quiz type tools on their sites to collect a lot of that info even prior to purchase. So collecting birthday information. I used to work for a curly hair company, so we'd collect like hair type information to like send more personalized product recommendations there. That's a good time. Certainly at checkout or post-checkout can be a good time. Another thing to keep in mind, which we might be getting too close to Black Friday, Cyber Monday right now to necessarily do this, but for any holidays in which folks are buying gifts for folks, collecting that information. Man Crates used to do a fantastic job of this, which was essentially having you fill out a form where you'd be like, okay, here are all the people that I ultimately want to purchase for, here are their birthdays, and they would send reminders about 3 weeks ahead of time with discounts to some of their products. So yes, there's like birthday deal stuff, but even thinking about the gifts that other folks are needing to buy for people and collecting that information so you can send segmented, whether emails or SMS messages. You're trying to make your customers look like the giving people that they are, helping them out.
So you said a lot about basically like personalization. I forget exactly what the question was, but
Yeah.
a lot of it was like, I want stuff personalized to me, relevant
Yeah.
to me, stuff that I've stated. What do you think is like the coolest Klaviyo feature in terms of personalization at scale?
In terms of personalizing stuff over SMS or in general? I guess it can all be used, yeah. The coolest Klaviyo personalization feature, look, the coolest thing for me is I am a person who likes to work as efficiently as possible. I have worked primarily for B2B brands. I have worked for a few B2C brands. Margins, at least in my experience, are far smaller for those B2C brands, and so resources are just a little tighter, right? So for me, the thing that I really like about Klaviyo is the ability to scale those personalizations in a dynamic way. So there's like dynamic content blocks and things where you can add specific rules in so that it is showing specific types of products related to what that person searched for or already bought without you having to do a single thing. Like that to me is scaling up personalization in a way that makes it feel one-to-one for the person receiving it, but for you as the person setting it up, I'm sorry y'all, for you as the person setting it up, you set it up one time and you don't have to think about it again. Well, you probably want to go back after several months and make sure it's like working and see how you can improve it. But it's stuff like that I really like about Klaviyo, which is how can you personalize and how can you automate personalization, basically, so that a single person can scale themselves and be more effective?